You are listening to Woodland Walks, a podcast for the Woodland Trust, presented by Adam Shaw. We protect and plant trees for people, for wildlife.
Well, today I'm going off to Londonthorpe Woods, and the clue is in the name. It is a hop, skip and a jump from London. In fact, well, it's very close to Grantham. In fact, I think it's the closest woodland to the Woodland Trust's headquarters in Grantham. Now, the woodland is about 190 acres big. It's got wildflower meadows, broadleaf and mature woodland. It's got a whole bunch of wildlife and lush open grassland as well. So it's a very mixed site indeed. And part of the purpose of this site is that the Woodland Trust has been working with the National Trust, supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, to link Londonthorpe Woods and a place called Belmount, which is the eastern part of the Belton House estate, which is rather grand and very nice. And it really gives a lot more accessible green space on the edge of Grantham to help people experience nature right on their doorstep. And what I'm really looking forward to, look, the place is filled with an abundance of butterflies. There's grassland areas. You might even see a grass snake. There's the great spotted woodpecker, and even you might see a kestrel. Interestingly, also cattle are also put to work on the site as part of a programme of conservation grazing. Of course, we won't see all of that at this time of year, but you never know what I might find. There's ash, there's oak, there's horse chestnut, there's beech, there's rowan, there's, sycamore. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to meet one of the Woodland Trust staff who's responsible for really bringing the site together.
So my name is Heather Cook and I am the project manager on this Reconnecting Grantham to its Historic Landscape project.
Right. So Heather, I have to say I left London, it was pouring down, I'm wearing my warmest clothes and you get to Grantham and the weather is lovely, so I apologise if I'm going to be very sweaty during this walk. I've come overly dressed. Anyway, we are in Grantham, very near the Woodland Trust headquarters. So this must be the nearest woodland to the Woodland Trust.
It is.
Why is this so important?
So, because Londonthorpe Woods, as you say, is closest to our head office, but it's also situated right next to a beautiful historic landscape at Belton House. So the project that we're working on here is really about reconnecting the landscape. So
what does reconnecting the landscape actually mean?
So Londonthorpe Woods, Londonthorpe, the site, was originally part of the original Brownland estate. And it was sold off years ago. Woodland Trust planted it up as a woodland, but it was very separate then from the Belton estate.
Right.
So we are now working in partnership with the National Trust on this project and opening up access for the people of Grantham. So they've now got access to the entire landscape to the east of Belton House and Londonthorpe Woods.
And when you talk about reconnecting the landscape, then, is that reconnecting pockets of ecology so that nature has a bigger place to thrive, or is it about sort of connecting, a lovely house with a lovely bit of greenery so people can wander around?
It's a bit of both. So it's mostly to do with physically reconnecting the two sites. So it's not actually connecting to the Belton House Park. It's a section of Belton House that sits to the east of their estate, where the Belmount Tower is, and it's a freely accessible, there's no pay barrier, people can come in. So it's a physical connection. We've opened up kissing gates and put in a bridge and all of that between the two sites. But then also very much around improving biodiversity, opening access from a wildlife point of view as well.
And how long has that project been going on for then?
So the development phase was a few years, but the actual delivery of the project started just over 2 years ago.
Right. And what have you managed to achieve then? Sorry, that wasn't my inner Jeremy Paxman. Yeah, no, come on and justify what you've done. No. So what has actually happened there? I mean,
so I think one of the biggest things you can see physically on the site is that we have majorly upgraded the car park. It was a small, very wobbly, difficult to get around little car park, and we have upgraded that with a beautiful big overflow space for when we have events. But I think the most exciting part for me is that we've been able to put the surface path in. So that has opened up the site to a much bigger group of people. It used to be that people driving in, park their car 20 minutes around the park with their dogs, back in the car and off they went. Whereas now we've got people in mobility scooters, baby buggies, wheelchairs coming to the site. Because it's surfaced and relatively level, that obviously makes it a lot easier. And also in the winter, this section that we're in now can get incredibly muddy, and that puts off a lot of new users who aren't used to that. So it makes it very much more accessible for them.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this is a very well-kept path, a lovely path, which we don't often see or don't always see in woodlands. And you've clearly gone to a lot of effort to improve access. Is there a sort of tension between your duty to safeguard the natural world and your duty to allow access to encourage people to engage with it?
Absolutely. It's one of our big sort of priorities for the project is to find that balance. So,
is there a trade-off? I mean, I just wonder whether that's an easy balance to achieve, or do you have to lose on one side to gain on the other?
I don't think so. Londonthorpe is not an ancient woodland. This what we're walking through now was planted in the early 1990s, so it's about 30 years old. So it hasn't, we weren't doing any damage necessarily to anything. I can't say it wasn't a value, it is a value, but it's not, we weren't losing anything dramatic. We were quite careful when we put the paths in. They were all these, through the woodland sections were all no dig, so it's not disturbing any of the tree roots. You can see them right up against the path. So no, I don't think it has been too much of a battle.
And in encouraging people to engage in woodlands and places like this, what is your hope? I mean, it's a very nice sort of thing for people to do, to wander around. There's no charge, so, and especially in these days, that's a lovely free thing for the family to do. Go and investigate a Woodland Trust wood. But do you think there's a greater purpose in trying to encourage that engagement?
I think so. I think one of the things that we found so interesting was that, our project actually got off the ground as the pandemic started. But during the development phase, we had done some some people counters on the site, counting how many people are coming through. And during the pandemic, those numbers more than doubled. And I think that what we have found, you hear it all over the show, the value and the benefit of wildlife to people's mental health. And I think that's a very big deal for us, is that there's not a lot of green space available in Grantham, and it's a big part of our project is trying to tell people that we're here, that it's free to visit, and that it's of huge benefit to them in so many ways.
Right. Well, we've just come out of this woodland area, very densely packed woodland area, to a lovely sort of open bit, which is fantastic. I mean, just tell me a bit about the landscape here and the sort of different varieties we're seeing.
So Adam, it's one of the things that I love so much about the site is that every 10 minutes you walk into a different landscape. It changes all the time. But just to our right on that side of the site is where the Belton Estate is. And when we get around the corner you'll see that this landscape is very similar to that, and it was actually planted, as I mentioned, in the 1990s to reflect that landscape. So that's why we've got these big open grassland areas, some more densely packed woodland. Further on in the site there's a lot of scrubland, so very much trying to keep it in keeping with the Belton Estate.
And how important, you talked about trying to offer this as a facility for the local community. How engaged are they?
Very much more since we've done made the changes to the site. As I said, we've seen the numbers go up a lot. We've had a really, really positive response to the changes, and our project is funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, so we've got 2 full-time staff on the project, me being one of them, and we've got a community development officer on the site as well. And a large part of his job is to promote with the project in the town, engage with community groups, invite them out, show them what we've got. So that's making a big difference, that more people know about it.
And in terms of local volunteers, is there a sort of army of people willing to come and help, or is that just a hope at the moment?
No, we've got a couple of groups of really, really engaged, fantastic volunteers. So we've got a group that do guided walks for us. So they do different themed walks. We do a walk from the Belton House to Belmont Tower on a regular basis, and we do military history walks. And then we've also got a really active group of wildlife monitor volunteers. So they've been monitoring birds, butterflies, doing transects all over the site.
And are we meeting someone who's one of those volunteers?
Yes, that's Ed Cullen. He's been with this now, I think he'll probably have to tell you, but a few months now.
Right. So early start. Early start. Early, fresh blood. Oh, look, and to the left, well, that looks like a golf course or something. There's a very well manicured bit of land. Maybe not is that just someone's private garden?
No, that's also part of the Belton House estate. Wow. It is a golf course.
It is a golf course.
They're on a long-term lease.
Right. Okay, fantastic.
Well, I'm going to go off and meet Ed, who is just lurching. He's not lurching, he's lurking. That was the word I was looking for. He's lurking. He's lurking by a tree down the path here. Ed, who is one of the volunteers. Going to talk to him about the work that they do here.
So, Ed, hi. So you're one of the volunteers, is that right?
I am, yeah.
So what do you volunteer with? What do you do?
Okay. Well, so currently, this year we've been doing weekly butterfly surveys and monthly bird surveys. Each week to come do a butterfly survey. It's just the end of the season now, so that's finished, but we carry on with the monthly bird surveys throughout the year. Hopefully in the future, when we get more volunteers, we hope to expand that to potentially dragonfly surveys or bird breeding territories and that sort of thing.
And how do you do those surveys? I mean, is it literally just sort of wander around and go, oh, spotted a butterfly?
For the butterfly survey, we follow a set route around transect around the site, made up of several legs, and we walk along and we observe 2.5 metres either side of us, and monitor and note down any butterflies we see as we go along the transect. We walk at a steady pace and we go all the way around and see what we find in each leg.
Butterfly's quite small. I mean, how difficult is it? I mean, I do see a butterfly, but I think if I went out looking for one, I probably wouldn't find one. How hard is it actually?
It's quite tricky to begin with, but then you sort of, after a while, you know what to look for. Certain flowers that then like to be around, and certain movements you see near the vegetation. So after a while, you do sort of get the hang of it.
And did you know this site before the Woodland Trust sort of got heavily involved?
I've been here a lot before I became a volunteer, and I really liked enjoying walking around it. So now I'm a volunteer here. It's quite good to be able to have a reason to visit every week, and even if we don't see many butterflies, it's still a nice walk.
Of course. Have you noticed much of a change in the landscape here in the past few years, or indeed how many butterflies and birds you've managed to see?
I've just been doing it. This is my first year volunteering, and so other volunteers tell me this year was. Butterfly numbers were lower than they have been in previous years, so not quite sure if that's to do with the climate or something like that, but it was the peak season when we were doing the surveys. I think the most we saw was a couple of hundred on the transect, but it can be much more than that, I think.
Wow, sorry, I thought you were going to go, saw 10. See, a couple of hundred butterflies.
Yeah, we can do it on the busiest days, yeah.
Wow, okay. That's very cool. That's very cool. Why did you get involved as a volunteer? What attracted you to that?
My goal is to work in the conservation sector, and I recently graduated from doing a master's degree in biodiversity conservation, so I was looking to get some more experience doing some of the sort of hands-on survey work.
And what would you say to other people who are listening to this and go, quite fancy spotting butterflies? I mean, what would you say about the joys of doing that, or whether that's something you'd recommend?
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's really, really enjoyable, and it's always exciting when you see a species you haven't seen before, or there's quite a few different ones. Yeah, it's always really exciting.
And how did you apply then? You just went to the website, or you stood outside the Woodland Trust headquarters?
Well, I saw information about the Reconnecting project in social media, so I emailed to find out more, see if there's any volunteering going on, and I got an email back saying that there's a wildlife monitoring team, and I thought that sounds great. It sounds just what I want to do, so yeah, I got involved.
So if you're interested, have a look at the website and follow them on Twitter. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. So in terms of butterflies then, are there any special to this site, or do you have any favourites?
I'm not sure there's any that's special to this site, but my favourite that I've seen is the painted lady. I've seen quite a few of those this year, and when they're really, really vibrant, they're really, really nice to see. So quite a few species though, I think about a dozen species seen so far. We've had small and Essex skippers and common butterflies, red admiral, common blue, so lots of different kinds.
Did you have to learn what those butterflies were? Did you come fully armed with butterfly knowledge?
Well, my butterfly knowledge wasn't extensive when I started, but luckily I'm paired up with a more experienced volunteer and was able to learn a lot from them and learn more as I go, as I spot them. And doing it every week, you see the same butterflies every week and you sort of pick up what species they are.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Well, Ed, thank you very much. I'm going to leave Ed there and go back to Heather for sort of a final word, really, on what she hopes the future for this site will hold.
So the project is going to run for 4 years. So we've got another 2 years left on the project, and we hope that by the time we get to the end of the Heritage Lottery Fund funding, that will we will have engaged really successfully with a number of community groups in the town. So my hope really is that will continue indefinitely after the life of the project, and that this will become a really special, valued place for the people of Grantham.
Well, it's lovely, and a lovely weather, as ever on these walks. So I'm always blessed with good weather. Shouldn't jinx it, but thank you, Heather. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do remember you can find a wood near you by looking at the Woodland Trust website, which is woodlandtrust.org.uk. Just type in find a wood, or indeed you can just type in find a wood into your search engine of choice and it will direct you to that Woodland Trust page. But until next time, and another wood somewhere in the country, look forward to walking with you then. Until then, happy wandering.
Thank you for listening to the Woodland Trust Woodland Walks with Adam Shaw. Join us next month when Adam will be taking another walk in the company of Woodland Trust staff, partners and volunteers. Don't forget to subscribe to the series on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a review and a rating. And why not send us a recording of your favourite woodland walk to be included in a future podcast? Keep it to a maximum of 5 minutes, and please tell us what makes your woodland walk special. Or send us an email with details of your favourite walk and what makes it special to you. Send any audio files to podcast@woodlandtrust.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you.